They're laughing because they know, but I have a confession to make. I am not proud of myself. I want to go crawl in a hole. Today we were supposed to cover The Village. What did Nikisha Michelle Williams watch? The Visit. So what are we going to cover today? The Visit.
Hello. Do you want to play a game?
What's your favorite scary movie?
Be afraid. Be very afraid.
See dead people.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Here's Johnny.
The power of Christ compels you! The power of Christ compels you!
Whatever you do, don't fall asleep.
Welcome to Talking Horror with Jamie and Nikisha.
Hi, I'm Jamie.
And I'm Nikisha, and this is Talking Horror with Jamie.
And Nikisha.
Where we share our love for all things scary and talk horror through the lens of human behavior. Well, welcome everyone. Except no celebration and fireworks and sparkle for me because guys, they're laughing because they know, but I have a confession to make. I am not proud of myself. I want to go crawl in a hole. Today we were supposed to cover The Village. What did Nikisha Michelle Williams watch? The Visit. So what are we going to cover today? The Visit.
Wait,
My
Nikisha,
apologies.
is your middle name Michelle?
It is.
So your last two parts of your name are Michelle Williams?
It is.
I didn't know that.
That's amazing.
That's fantastic.
The sixth removed member of the One Destiny's Child. That's my claim to fame, guys.
Yeah,
so,
as it should be.
But yeah, guys, I was in an M. Night Shyamalan-a-thon and watched a whole bunch of movies that I will talk about when we get there in preparation for this podcast, and future podcasts, but then ended up watching The Visit and not The Village. So that's what we're going to cover today. We're going to take Brian and Jamie on for the ride. They have seen this before. I have not. So
right.
This is just going to be a fun podcast episode today. So welcome.
Because none of our other episodes are fun.
Right, exactly.
They're all not fun.
They're all not fun, but this will be extra fun. So today we're talking about the 2015 found footage horror film, The Visit. It was written and directed by M. Night Shyamalan, and it stars Olivia DeJonge, Ed Oxenbould, Deanna Dunnigan, Peter McRobbie, and Katherine Hahn. Hey, Agatha, what's up, girl? When I saw her on the screen, I was like, wait a minute. Hi. Can't wait for the Agatha series to come out. Does that come out this year or no?
Yeah, later this year.
Oh, so
it's
fantastic.
a good cast. It's her, Patti LuPone, and Aubrey Plaza.
Woo! Aubrey Plaza. I'm obsessed. And Patti LuPone in anything, I will absolutely go and see.
Yeah.
So
We used to, back in the early 90s, she had a show on TV called Life Goes On, if you remember it.
No.
My family and I, that was like invitation television. Like we were sitting in front of the TV watching that. We loved it. I think it was only like 2 or 3 seasons. Anyway, wonderful.
Yes, I love that. I didn't even know that she had a TV show. This is the same with what Kristen Chenoweth had her own TV show at some point.
Well, Kristen Chenoweth won an Emmy for Pushing Daisies.
Oh,
yes,
that show
but in the 90s,
good.
she had her own.
Oh yes, she had her own like
show.
self-titled show. Yeah,
Yes,
Patti LuPone was on a show where she was one of the stars, but it wasn't like the Patti LuPone show. She was just an actress playing a character like in like a Parenthood type of TV show.
Got it. Okay,
Yeah.
Cool. I mean, either way, I'm still there.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, heavy spoilers for The Visit. And Jamie, if you can remember off the top of your head, some trigger warnings for this movie.
Yes.
Oh, this movie has one of my favorite scenes of all time. That is a huge trigger warning.
Really?
Yes,
Oh my God.
Okay,
Wait, calm down. Calm down. We were We were very excited when we heard that Nikisha watched this movie.
Yeah. She's embarrassed.
Truly,
We're thrilled to be
I'm-
talking about
I'm
this.
pumped. So this is all from memory from whenever the last time is that either of us saw it. But
I could tell you
so-
on Letterboxd.
Oh, nice.
I might have watched it without you because I just wanted to watch it. Okay, anyway. So this movie centers around like dementia, Alzheimer's references, as well as mental health, like a psychiatric hospital, also just like family relationships, tension in family relationships between like parents and children, like even like adult children and older adult parents. There's some references to like they kind of reference OCD and like cleanliness.
Yeah.
And then there's some poop references.
Trigger warning if you don't like messes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. There's a couple people who do get murdered. Unfortunately, RIP. These teenagers do discover like a dead body, which is really deeply traumatizing.
Deeply.
Deeply. And yeah, just a lot of like really erratic, disturbing behavior. Did I catch everything? I feel like that's
I think
Yeah.
so.
it's another PG-13 horror movie, so it's not like overly
No.
graphic, right? It's
No.
PG-13, right?
There's a few really good jump scares in it, but there's definitely
Yeah.
nothing like super gory. They cut the camera away. So
Mm-hmm.
oh, there is a hanging.
Oh, that's right. The neighbor who comes and brings them
Yeah.
the pie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm.
They find her, but it's like a small little snippet of a scene. Yeah.
I watched this before I had Letterboxd, which means I watched it before January of 2023 for the first time. The last
okay.
time I watched it.
Sure.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, well, I am excited to get into this. Before that, like I mentioned, I was in a Shyamalan-a-thon
Mhm.
and watched so many things.
So let's, before you go, Nikisha, let's remind our listeners that
Yes.
Nikisha really has one of the gaps in her horror movie knowledge, if you will, is we discovered early on while doing this podcast is M. Night Shyamalan. So we are trying to go because I think he, and this is maybe I'm biased, but I really like him, and I think even if you don't like his movies, he has a unique voice in the horror genre. And so I wanted to make sure that like Nikisha's been teaching me about slashers and her favorite things, along with Jamie kind of giving me that information. So I grew up watching M. Night Shyamalan, watching those type of like Hitchcockian thrillers. So I wanted to present those to Nikisha. So we've been working our way through all of this. We're going a little bit out of order because he names his movies a lot of the same the V's. But so I just want to give some context before
Yes.
Nikisha shares the Shyamalan-a-thon that she's done.
Yeah, thank you. And also, Brian, if you can remind us, the ones that we have covered on this podcast was Sixth Sense.
I think we've only done Sixth Sense. Oh,
Okay.
Knock at the Cabin.
Oh, and Knock at the Cabin.
Because
Okay.
he has a new one coming out this year, Trap, and his daughter has The Watchers coming out, and we're going to cover both of those for the podcast.
Yes. So since then, I have watched Unbreakable, Signs, and The Visit.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched Unbreakable first. I will say that I already have seen Split. So some of the characters, I got some more context, right? Because there's some appearances that happen at the end of Split.
Right.
So I spoil a little bit of spoilers for some of these. Unbreakable, I had a really great time watching it. I really loved it. I thought the concept was great. And even though I knew that Samuel L. Jackson's character was like bad in some way, just remembering what Split was, the ending still just got me. And I had a really great time. stayed up and watched this movie because it was just so good, and I loved the tension. I loved the concept of the superheroes. I love the concept of the spectrum of people, like having one that is like glass and breaks, and then one that is quote unquote unbreakable.
Mhm.
And I thought that the performances were excellent. When his son was about to shoot him,
Oh, that's
in
my
the
favorite
kitchen?
scene. I just got goosebumps. Yeah.
Oof.
It was so good. Yes, I had the best time watching this, and I was like, oh my god, is there a sequel to this? Like, are you telling me that nothing happened until Split?
Yeah.
happened?
Well, I think, and something just because we won't cover that movie, well, maybe down the line, but something I love about that movie is it's, to me, I really relate to it in that you don't remember everything that happened in your childhood. You know the
Mhm.
stories, but then when it's being revealed that like the only time his mom had to pick him up and he almost died was in the pool, and like
Yes.
his memory of the car accident when he was a football star, that he faked his injury to like be with her, like all that
Mhm.
little stuff, like adding up to him surviving the train and all of that, is just like, I find very relatable in that, like, you get these
You're a
stories.
superhero?
By the way, yeah,
Side note.
yeah, side note. Anyway.
Yeah. But I also loved how it was filmed too, especially the opening scene in the train station, where it's kind of the point of view of like the little girl that's and you're looking through the seats at Bruce Willis and then the other lady that's sitting next to him. I just really enjoyed how things were filmed in this. Signs, didn't care for. Sorry.
That's it.
For me, the most exciting part was like the last 20 minutes of it, and everything else before that just kind of dragged for me, especially some of the script. Especially Joaquin Phoenix's characters seemed like things that normal people don't say, and was just kind of out of the blue for me.
Mhm.
Swing away.
Yeah, it just, I
What a
don't know,
silly
and
thing
it
to
felt
say.
the tiniest bit preachy, just the tiniest bit preachy.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And it doesn't help that it's Mel Gibson, one. And
Right.
two, like, I think the last 20 minutes are great, but I will say that, like, it feels so beyond serendipitous that it's hard. Like, why would someone say swing away when they're pinned against the tree? Like, it just
Right.
doesn't, there's no, like, I don't know. It just, I know the point is that he believes in God again, but like, I agree with you. It feels very preachy in a non-grounded way.
Yeah.
Like, the water over the house is more believable than the other stuff.
Right. Yes. And at first I was thinking like, well, maybe I'm just not an alien movie person.
You're
But
not,
You're not an
You're not an alien?
Paused. Yeah.
You're not an alien?
I'm
I
not
was like, wow, that's so. I'm really glad to
Period.
hear.
Maybe because I'm not an alien, I don't relate
Uh-huh.
to this, and that's why I didn't like it.
That makes sense. I get that.
Yes.
Totally.
But yeah, so I watched, and especially watching like Unbreakable, and then in less than 24 hours watched Signs, and I was like, oh no.
But I
Yeah.
feel like you got the M. Night Shyamalan experience in those two movies. Like,
Yes.
he builds you up with a great movie, and then he lets you down with other one. Like, watching his movies is such a roller coaster, but there's
Yes.
always an interesting germ of an idea and a well executed film, whether or not you think it's slow or not, just from like, there's something to chew on and to be delighted
Yes.
by, even if you don't like the whole thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And especially after thinking about Sixth Sense and Knock at the Cabin, and just how he has his like conflict resolution type things within his, like, it all seems, he has the like reveal at the end, or the surprise, or whatever, or the twist, and like sometimes it really works, and then sometimes it's just like, oh, this kind of falls flat because of other things that have happened before.
Sure.
But you can still see him throughout all of the movies. So
Literally.
yeah, it was really fun. And then I just watched The Visit, which we will talk about, and yeah, it was really nice to have that kind of high to low to back high, because I really had a great time watching The Visit, and we'll get into that as well. But yeah, and then the last thing I will say, guys, I don't know if you've watched this, but via my friend Desmond Sean Ellington, who is now in Hell's Kitchen, go see him in the musical.
Oh, cool. I was like, Hell's Kitchen's pretty big. Like, I don't know where I'm gonna find him.
You know, kind of a big deal right now.
Just walk around.
He suggested, which we need to get him on the podcast because he listens to our stuff all the time. He
Oh,
literally
yeah.
just watched Night Swim and was like, "Y'all are going in on this movie." He listened to our podcast
Yeah.
about it.
Sorry.
Cool.
Sorry, not sorry.
But sorry, not sorry. He suggested Goodnight Mommy, but the OG German horror.
I've never seen it. It's the same people who did The Lodge, which we liked.
Oh, I didn't realize. Okay.
Yeah. We could do that one.
This is good movie.
Yeah.
I've never seen
I
either
watched that.
version.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The new one doesn't need to exist. The old one is
No.
perfectly fine. This is again another we think that English speakers are too lazy to read subtitles, so we'll just redo it.
Exactly.
Totally unnecessary.
Very much unnecessary. Not to spoil that one, but I kind of figured at the very beginning.
Don't spoil it though.
I won't.
I don't know the ending, and I don't
Great.
want to know. Okay.
Yes. I had an idea. My idea was right, but I still had a good time watching it.
But that's a good movie. If
yeah.
if figuring out the twist lessens your experience watching the movie, then something is wrong fundamentally with the structure.
Exactly, because I think it still rounded itself out, even though you might guess whatever is at the end. It was still some things that unexpectedly happened at the end that kept me involved, and it was a really good visual movie too. I really liked the cinematography in that, but it was wild. So we'll have to put that on the list too.
Yeah,
to cover.
I'll put it on
But
there now.
we're here to talk about The Visit, and Brian is going to give us a cute 2-minute plot summary of The Visit, and then we'll
cute.
What's the plot?
All right. I'm going to try my best to do a plot summary because I saw this God knows how long ago. This came out in 2015. I did not see when it first. Anyway, let's figure
You
it
got
out.
this.
All right.
I believe in you.
Yeah, I think I can do this.
yeah.
All right. Ready, steady, go.
Okay, 2 kids are going to see the grandparents that they've never met before because their mother, played by Catherine Hahn, has had no contact with them for 15 years. We later find out that she married one of her college professors, and they disapproved of that, and they got into a big fight that was a physical altercation at one point, and that's why they stopped talking. Anyway, the kids go and visit the grandparents while the mom is with her boyfriend on a cruise, and the grandparents are weird, but they're happy to see them, and essentially say the curfew is 9:30, do not go into the basement. And then after the 9:30, the weird things start happening. They escape the room. They escape the room. They get out of the room. They see the grandma projectile vomiting. This is all found footage told from the perspective of the grandson, I think, or the granddaughter rather, making a documentary about her family. Weird things start happening. They go into town, and the grandpa yells and attacks somebody because he thinks they're following them. A next door neighbor comes with a blueberry pie to tell them thank you for helping me, but then she ends up disappearing. Anyway, the kids end up in the basement and find their grandparents' dead bodies because the mother on a video call said those are not your grandparents when they were in the background. They find their dead grandparents in the basement. We find out that the grandparents used to volunteer at a mental institution. These are 2 escaped mental patients who killed the grandparents and basically took their life. And the kids end up killing them through different things. And then the mom picks them up. And the lesson they learn is that just stay in touch with your family, work it out. It's okay. And then the kid raps, and he got duty in his face.
And that's the plot.
That was excellent. Excellent.
I couldn't even keep counting at the end because you really summed it up.
Oh,
just
the
so
kid
well.
got duty in his face. Okay, let's get into it with our first segment of likes and gripes.
And now our likes and gripes.
So obviously Jamie and Brian have already seen this movie. This is my first time with this movie. And Brian, I will say in your plot summary, what I did appreciate from this movie was that there wasn't, sometimes a movie will give something away to kind of lead you to believe there's something wrong. And I'm really happy in this movie that there wasn't like a news report or like a radio report that was
Yeah.
like, there
Oh,
are
totally.
2 convicts that are missing from this psychiatric ward, you know?
Right. Totally.
So then when you find out that they're not their parents, it's like, I knew, you know, something weird was going on. Obviously my vote was that they're a part of like a cult or something, you know, or some type of like witchery was happening. But the fact that they like weren't even their grandparents, and I don't even think when they mentioned the psychiatric ward, because they mentioned the name, but they never mentioned that it's a psychiatric ward. They just mentioned that, oh, these people are volunteering at this place. So it was just really, really a cool concept that it ends up not even being their grandparents in the first place. The kid who was rapping, I'm like, super cringe. What are you doing, child? This is wild and crazy. But my favorite thing he says is swerve, girl. Okay.
So
What
this
was his
movie,
rapper name?
Oh yeah.
T Diamond something. But because his name was like
Tyler.
Tyler, yeah, Tyler.
Yeah. So this movie, so just a quick little information dump. This movie, like, M. Night was like on the decline big time. He had some huge bomb. He had like 4 bombs in a row. They wouldn't let him make movies anymore, the studios. So he ended up remortgaging his own house and financing this movie on his own. So if this flopped, like, he was done. And it did really well because they made it for like nothing and people really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
However, they had a lot of tone issues with this movie.
No, that was what I wanted to talk
Oh,
about.
then I'll just say that.
Let Nikisha share her likes and gripes.
Sorry, I was just giving context to the people.
No, I mean, but I didn't know that, and that makes sense. I mean, usually when your ass is to the fire, you deliver, okay? And I think that he delivered in this. Also, going with the concept of found footage, you know, for the most part, in general, kind of always works. You know, people are interested in the found footage subgenre of horror, and so I think that this did a really good job. There was never a moment where I was like, they shouldn't be holding the camera for this. Except there was one moment when the daughter and the grandmother were locked in a room together towards the end.
Oh, yeah.
And they were like rolling around in the bed. And I was like, how is this camera? How is it positioned this way to where we're seeing all this? But any other time, I thought that it was definitely like found footage, believable things. And yeah, I put this, so much has happened in the movie already, and it was only 30 minutes in, because I think we had already got the moment where the grandma was like throwing up, and when she's chasing them underneath the house and doing all these weird things, and then the grandpa's already like yelled at the random guy on the street. So I'm like, oh my God, there's an hour left. Like, what are they gonna do? And I also put, we love a countdown. So it was like Monday, this happened. Tuesday, this happened. Wednesday. So it was like, absolutely, yes, on board for that always. Yeah, I love the concept of how kids react differently to parent leaving, because you have like the girl, who like doesn't look in the mirror anymore because she like thinks that she's, you know, worthless and not valuable, and she has so much anger towards her dad because she was like, I'm not even gonna put this footage of him in this family documentary.
Oh, that's right. And then at the end she decides to, because she learned her lesson from the poopy diaper.
With the poopy diaper, yes. But then also the kid Tyler still like spoke highly of his dad, but he also now has this kind of like germaphobe thing, and he also was thinking about the time, I think, when he was playing football and he didn't tackle someone and his like dad was yelling at him, and then he kind of related that to him because I think his dad left maybe like a couple days later or like the next day. So yeah, it was just, I loved seeing that. They didn't have to dive too deep into it, but you could see how the dad leaving made these kids feel and how they like went about, you know, life and stuff. So I really enjoyed that. Yes. Oh, I like the resolution of, you know, letting go of anger. And I think that's just like a relatable subject matter, especially with how intense this movie got, to that being the lesson, which is kind of like, okay, well, yeah, I get it. Cool. I'm also am finding that I appreciate movies that don't necessarily date themselves so that when you watch it in the future, like it still holds up.
Oh, sure.
There was some things in this movie where I'm like, this is so 2010s, you know, like with the references and like the kid who's rapping is like, I'm going to stop cussing. I'm going to use female famous names. And so he's like, stumps his toe and he's like, Katy Perry.
Oh,
Like, oh, Shania Twain, you know?
Yeah, there's a lot of weird, fun quirks in this movie.
Yeah. Which were a little cringe for me, but overall, though, I think that it still holds up in the messaging and in the scares. There were some pretty good jump scares that got me. One when the grandma like is moving around and you don't think that she sees the camera, and then she like pops up right in the camera.
Yeah, when they like hide the camera.
Yeah, when
Oh,
they hide
yeah.
the camera. And there was one where the camera was propped up somewhere and Tyler was walking around, but his sister comes like out of a closet and like scares him. And I was like, why did this get me? Oh my God.
Oh, wait,
Yeah.
Nikisha,
Mhm.
did you like, going back to Signs, did you
Yes.
like the jump scare with the Spanish video? The birthday party?
Oh, where the thing
where he walks.
That's the movie from Scary Movie, where the thing just walks across the screen.
Yeah, I was like, wait, what is happening?
Oh,
I was just mad that Joaquin Phoenix was yelling at the screen at the kids to move, and then was like, "Vamonos, kids!" And I'm like, "What are you doing? Like,
okay,
why
fair.
are you even?
Boo.
You know?" It's like,
okay.
boo.
Sorry. Back to our regularly scheduled. Well, not really regularly scheduled,
But yes,
but the visit.
Screaming. But yeah, overall, I don't have much to say because I really had a good time watching this. I thought that the kids' behaviors were explained really well, of like how and why they're maneuvering the way that they are maneuvering in their grandparents' house and in the context of like their life in general. And the reveal that it's not their grandparents was like epic. I was just like, what the hell? This is insane. What happened to them? What's going on? And like sad that they found their grandparents, you know, in the basement dead.
Yeah,
and-
that makes me very upset. That part
Ugh.
really made me upset.
yeah, it was a good watch. Like just kind of also seeing too, like the mom just saying, "Hey guys, they're old," and even the older sister was like, "Don't think of any of this stuff as weird because like when people get older, sometimes just things like this happen," and you kind of think to yourself like, oh yeah, when people do get older, you know, you kind of like you kind of let some things go because you know they're just getting older. And so to kind of think and maybe discriminate against in a way because someone is older, I don't know, I just thought it was a really good concept to just be like, oh yeah, people are getting old and sometimes like things just happen. But I mean, in this case, obviously they're, you know, crazy people who kill
Other
people.
things at play.
Yes. Other things, menacing things were at play here. But it was also just to think about, you know. Yeah, I really had a good time watching
Great.
this movie, so it was good. Either of you, Jamie, do you want to talk about the tone?
Yeah, I want to talk about the tone.
Yes.
By the way,
I didn't get the Sage message, the Sage T-shirt message.
Oh wow.
Oh. Well,
Gotta get
listen,
with it.
sorry.
Sorry,
We're vibing in the-
listeners.
in the
Sorry,
green
our
Look,
today.
podcast
you're just a
listeners.
Gemini. You don't
Yeah.
understand.
You,
It's
YouTube
his
knows what we're
season
talking
too.
about.
I
Yeah.
know. It sucks to suck. Anyway.
Yes.
I will say I like this movie. I watched it several times because I think it's totally absurd. But that being said, that speaks to the tone that this film had a problem with, like Brian was saying, and then I cut him off angrily. This movie, I think that the only reason it's successful is because of how they edited it, but this was not the intention of this movie. And I think that that's part of the bigger problem of I think that M. Night has two major problems in his later movies. I think one is tone. I think two is his over involvement, whether that's like writing, whether that's like him being in it because he's a narcissist.
Yeah.
But either way, like I think I think that he has like Brian said, he has really good ideas. I think that he needs to relinquish control and just direct these movies and not be a part of the writing of them and not be in them. And then I think that would really help with the tone problem, because
Okay.
it's if he'd be a little bit more hands off. And I think that, like, you know, this is why like diversity and inclusivity matters, so that other people with other experiences can like offer their input, so we get
Yes.
like more. And I think that like he just has like a particular idea, but I just don't think that it ever is quite executed in the way that he wants it to be. And I think this is a perfect example of that, because even though this ended up doing well, I definitely don't think that the intention of this movie is at all aligned with what he wanted it to be. And
Okay.
the concept, like, again, I like the concept of this movie, like the idea, and I like the concept, I would say, of most of the movies that he makes.
Yeah.
I like the idea of, like, you know, they've never met this part of their family before, and now they're going to go, but like things are really weird and not what they seem, or not what they expected. And so like I think that that's really clever. I think that they really amplify the comedy in this significantly. And I like, yes, this movie has effective jump scares, but like I have a really hard time kind of viewing this as like a pure horror movie. It's wild to me that they describe it as found footage horror, because like the comedy element seems so wickedly high, again,
Yes.
because I think of how they edited it. Like, why is this kid a rapper? Like, what is
Why?
the purpose of that? It's
So-
so weird.
Yes.
So Shyamalan did this himself. He put a rough cut together, and apparently every studio passed on the rough cut. And the rough cut that he put together was this super serious art film that did not even seem like a horror movie. So we recut the movie, and the second cut of this movie is pure comedy. It's 100% comedy. And then he cut it a third time, and it's what we get, that weird balance between the two.
Yeah, because it's so
so
serious,
strange.
like, topics.
Yeah.
But then you have this 11, 12-year-old boy shirtless, like, rapping to the ladies, and you're just like, what are we doing here?
Mhm.
And why, like you said, Jamie, why does he have to rap? Like, why does this have to be his thing that he does?
Yeah.
And not very well at that. So it's just like, what are we doing?
Yeah. So I think that, like, I think that's a clear thing that needs to be known going into watching this movie, because because you can really pull a lot of weird different things out of it, and like different experiences out of it. I don't consider this movie overly scary, but I think that it also has effective jump scares. It's really weird to describe it in that way.
Yeah.
But
What has-
again, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh no, like I think that it's like just a very weird end product that we get, that I find very entertaining, and like I think this movie has high rewatchability, because I've watched it several times, and I'm not tired of it. It's just so strange. It's just very strange. But like, again, I think very enjoyable and way more digestible than like some of the other ones that are just like flat out bad. Like, I would say that, like, obviously The Happening is like, everybody knows that The Happening is not a good movie. Like, everyone can agree. Probably M. Night Shyamalan also agrees. That movie has a tone problem, largely, I would say, based in the casting. That movie is horribly casted. With Mark Wahlberg playing a science teacher and Zooey Deschanel playing God knows what, like just an empty vessel with like nothing to offer. It's like just not good. And John Leguizamo also is like the best friend. Like, it's just so horribly casted that it just, you have no idea what to expect, and it's really hard to take anyone seriously for something that like that movie centers around like suicide. Like, it's like a very serious and disturbing premise, and like it just doesn't, there's so much like tension between like what the movie's trying to say, which I think is also like mostly about environmental justice, weirdly enough. And yeah, and then these characters that are just like it just like it's such a jumbled mess. But that I think is a tone problem. It's just like whatever your intention was is not what got across because you severely fucked up along the way.
His run was Lady in the Water, The Happening, The Last Airbender, and After Earth just before this.
Those were all like critical failures, like
They're
super terrible. Lady in the Water, my problem with that movie is there's just way too much going on. It's just like overwhelmed, packed with stuff. Oh, and again, the ego problem where like he stars in this movie for some reason.
As a writer who's going to change the world.
So yeah, it's just like a lot of things like that where, and I have not seen The Last Airbender or After Earth. I have
seen
good.
Those. They are not good.
But yeah, so that's my thesis on M. Night is like I think that he has really, really, really interesting ideas. And again, you see them in his earlier films. We're continuing to see them now. I just think that he has this is coming from a person with anxiety and struggling with perfectionism. I think he has a control problem. I think he needs to let go a little bit. And I think that if he like invited more collaboration, especially in the writing, to fix some of the really clunky dialogue that I truly find so hard to get through in some of these movies.
Yes.
That I think that it would be the thing. 'Cause like, I don't even care about the twist things as much anymore. Like I don't put as much stock in like that needing to be his shtick. I'm just looking for him to make another really good movie. And like, I just feel like there's something getting in the way. And I think it's him. I think he gets in his own way because like without other support and input.
He's not asking for help.
Again, no, I would love for him to ask for. It's okay to ask for help, M. Night.
It's okay to ask for
We're
help.
here. We're here to support you. This might, and that was my parlor talk on M. Night. I didn't mean it to be like this big bashing on him, but
Come, sit, have a drink. It's parlor talk.
only because I look forward to all of his movies still. It's like he's done some weird number on me where like despite all the wrongdoings, I still want to see what he's doing.
Because they're unique. Because it's not
the
this
ideas are really interesting.
But it's not this cookie cutter studio film where like I'm gonna go see another Marvel movie and it's like as much as I like those, it's different. It's not like, well, I guess I'm just gonna go see another like Conjuring universe movie or remake. Like they all like each one of his movies has his style, but like you just don't know. And sometimes once is enough. Like for his, but you get that experience. But sometimes it's like a rewatchable film. That Sixth Sense is one of my top 5 favorite horror movies of all time.
It's so
and I have to give him the benefit of the doubt, even though if you look at all of his movies, Sixth Sense, Unbreakable, Signs, The Village, Lady in the Water, The Happening, The Last Airbender, After Earth, The Visit, Split, Glass, Old, Knock at the Cabin, they're all unique and interesting. I think more than half of those are not like great.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah,
I definitely agree. But again, it's like for some reason I haven't been like burned enough where it's completely deterred me from like ever trusting him again. And I think this movie is part of it. And again, I have like a weird relationship to this movie, but it's still it delivered enough where I'm like, all right, I'm back in. Like this movie is wild. So let me actually talk about why I like this movie. I also have a weird relationship to like Alzheimer's and dementia. My grandfather had Alzheimer's. He had lived with us when I was growing up. Normally I like avoid that type of content like all the time because I find it deeply upsetting. So it's interesting when you like see it like in a horror movie, and this isn't the only one that we've talked about before that uses Alzheimer's as like a theme in a horror movie. But again, like another interesting depiction of like how like a little like kind of what Nikisha was saying about like a little assumptions and like ageism in how we're perceiving the elderly, and like how we might be dismissive of certain things that are happening because they're older, and like we're seeing it in these young people who are actively experiencing it. So like that also feels really real. I there kind of is a lot going on in this movie, like just these two kids who are like processing losing their dad, like not by death, so it's this like ambiguous loss, and like the ways in which they are like processing it. So like the core of this movie being a found footage, because it's like this is how the daughter is processing her idea of family and family relationships, and like using this opportunity to connect with other family members while still grieving the loss of her dad. And I really like that idea, that concept of like, you know, family means a lot of different things, and even if she doesn't have like the whole story and doesn't know exactly what went down between her mom and her mom's parents, that like still being really open to developing this new relationship. So it's like there's so much of that pressure around the relationship building that I think also you're more dismissive of like the unusual behavior, because she's like, I got like, you know, imagine losing like a really important family figure and then like coming up against like some weird things with new family, and it's like, I have to make this work. And that's kind of what I feel like there's so much pressure to like, you know, facilitate this like new bond, because again, like the loss of her father. So like it's just really interesting, and there's just loads of human behavior stuff that's happening in this movie.
And I just want to piggyback off of that too, because the daughter is also trying to mend the relationship with the parent. Like not only is she trying to personally have a relationship with these grandparents, she's also what she calls is finding the elixir, which is the forgiveness of it all between her grandparents and her mom, so that her mom can stop hurting and like move on. And she's seen what that has done. So it's interesting to also kind of have that in play as well, as she's dismissing all of these things that the grandparents are doing.
Yeah, because she's lost her parents in some ways, and so her mom has lost her parents. So like if A equals B, then B equals C. In some way, it might help her.
Right.
Transitive properties. Yeah.
He knows math.
Also, I have to say, no. I'm not like I don't always talk about like birth order stuff. However, that's like so oldest sibling.
Older child.
Yeah. Oh my God. Her trying to fix this it's like, wow. Like they really were like, oh yeah, she's the older sibling. Like, of course she's trying to like fix this relationship between her mom and her grandparents. So that is really funny to me too. But again, like all of these things I think are really grounded in like family dynamics and human behavior. So good job, M. Night. Then we have the kid rapping, which I think is really, really strange, and I don't fully get it.
Hate it.
Some other things. I mean,
well, you hate it because you ain't it, right? Is that?
I'm out.
Yeah, everyone just leave. Walk away.
I'm leaving the chat now.
I think some of the jump scares are really good. Even though it uses a lot of the like same types of like tropes that we've seen in like, you know, tension building and like time and like things like that. And they're literally jump scares. Like most of the time it's like the Nana like popping out of nowhere.
Sure.
Just like terrifying. And like they do it when they're playing like hide and seek under the house for whatever reason. I don't know why that's the place that they have to do it. That you mentioned like when they put the hidden cameras in the living room and Nana pops up. It's always Nana doing something
Weird
wild.
Shit. Yeah.
So I liked a lot of those things. Some things that are don't quite make sense is that like Nana seems to be wildly strong at night during her sundowning.
Sure.
I don't think that that's a thing. Like the super strength that she magically gets.
Yeah. They can split too. Like, okay.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that's like that's
We'll talk about
whenever we get to
we'll
split,
get there. We'll get
we'll
there.
get there.
We'll get there.
But at least for this, the context that we get in this film and like what's happening in this world, I don't think that makes any sense. I think that there's just like a lot where it feels like this forced mystery of like, why is grandpa going into the shed? Why is Nana like doing these things? Like, why? Like, there's so many questions that they're asking, and then they just like don't follow through on them for like a really long time. I'm like, but you don't really know
long time.
Yeah, it's like, come on, like that seems really unbelievable. I think that one of the biggest unbelievability things in this movie is that somehow Catherine Hahn does not see these people until the very end of the movie. That just like that's not. I would never. That's so wild, absolutely wild. It like kind of makes me a little bit mad. I'm like, Catherine Hahn, like, be a better parent. There's no way that you wouldn't have at least had one like kind of conversation just to like verify or like drop them off in person or something, even if you're not in communication with them, like just something. It's just like, no, that doesn't feel believable to me.
I feel like every horror movie like this has one thing that like to have the scenario like just keep going and just like something that you're just willing to like, okay.
Well, because without it, there would be no movie.
Exactly.
But like, it's the thing that I think is the least believable about this entire situation is that they're just like, this movie wouldn't exist, but I just don't believe that Catherine Hahn wouldn't have like escorted her children and like visibly seen her parents in a drop off. But you know, I'll let it slide for the sake of this film.
The Dirty Diapers.
And I don't want to take too much of Brian's thunder, but the diaper scene is one of the best scenes in this entire movie, and maybe like many other M. Night movies. And I'll leave it there.
That fucking diaper scene.
I'll leave it
Producer
there.
Brian, take it over.
Sure, I'll keep mine short. My gripes about this movie are the change in tone, but my likes about this movie are the change in tone because that's how I remember it. Like, it's one of those things where while you're watching it, I'm like, what is happening? And then afterwards, it makes me remember this movie way more.
Yeah, sure.
So that's the first thing there. The second thing, another thing I like about this movie is that the boy doesn't like messes, and then he gets a duty in his face.
And then raps about it. But I mean, truly a memorable, visceral scene. I see him coming towards him you can smell it, you can feel it. I just think it's an amazing scene. Spectacular. And then the best part of this movie is that M. Night is not in it. Yes.
Isn't the shed filled with all the diapers?
The shed is also filled with dirty diapers. I mean, one of my gripes also is once you find out the twist and thinking back on the rest of the movie, from a mental health perspective, it feels like they're just making things up about mental health, certain aspects of that.
This isn't like a great movie. I mean, I didn't really say in my gripes, but this isn't like a great movie to like use as an example of what like mental illness looks like.
Yeah, like that's so.
And I feel that way about a lot of M. Night movies. Just saying, like a lot of them. Most if not all of them. That like I don't think he does a good job at representing mental health, mental illness, and like I don't like the idea that these are like escaped from the psychiatric hospital. Like I think that's gross. So not a fan of that. But like the rest of like if they were just like two evil people, like I'm in. I'm not crazy. Oh, that's not the right good word to use in describing this, but I am not a fan of the psychiatric piece being used as like one of the, main scary things about this.
For sure. He should have consulted somebody about this.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then my last thing is, even though the message is kind of not heavy-handed, but really like you get it. I'm happy that it felt compared to his other movies, it felt more balanced in how it's woven into the storyline than
Absolutely.
being hit over the head the whole time with it. So that's a like from me. And that those are my quick likes, Griff, because you all said a lot of what I thought.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, we're already like itching at the subject of mental health, so let's get into it with our next section, brains.
Tasty.
Tasty. Okay, we mentioned sundowning, and it's mentioned a lot in this movie, but I wanted to ask you, Jamie, is that a real thing? In the movie, it says that it's a form of dementia. So could you talk about that, please?
Yes. So I think that sundowning, to my understanding, is like based on the real thing. That like towards the end of the day, there might be just like more irritability, or distress, agitation, potentially like hallucinations and delusions that can
Mm.
continue into nighttime. It's I think that it's connected to dementia. Um, I don't know if it necessarily needs to be, if it's like I don't think it's like, if it's connected to dementia, I don't think it's necessarily like connected to the time of day. I think that like
Mm-hmm.
it can just, there can be periods of time where there's like a significant change in that behavior
Yeah.
that you would otherwise see in somebody. So there probably also are a lot of other like reasonable like things that would, explanations that might impact it, like, you know, like a different state, like if you're hungrier, or like getting poor sleep, or like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
something else that could potentially exacerbate those symptoms. So I think that I think like that is based on reality, except the things that we're seeing in this movie
It's so
are
extreme.
not that. It's
Yes.
not, that's not what we're seeing. That's just the excuse that they're giving. But that sundowning, I think, is based in something real.
Okay. So then my next question is, what, with the symptoms that we're seeing, as extreme as they are, how would the DSM-5 like place some of these things, especially considering they come from a quote unquote psychiatric ward? Like,
Yeah, that's a great question.
but I know
I
it's so
mean,
far out left, you know.
yeah, well, because again, it's like it's hard to figure out when a movie is poorly representing mental health and mental illness.
Mm-hmm.
How do you like quote categorize somebody? When I don't think that it's a particularly informed approach. I know that like there's the scene where the grandpa goes into town and is like accusing people of like following him and stuff like that, which, like, you know, that's delusional thinking, so perhaps that could be an indicator of schizophrenia. And I think that I'm trying to remember if there was something else that he does or says. I mean, like, there's also moments where he's like super irritable. When they're playing
Mm-hmm.
Yahtzee, he's really irritable, but that's also like in the climax of the movie anyway.
Right, right.
But I'm trying to think if there's anything else that he does. Oh my God. There's that one. I can't believe we didn't even talk about this.
Mm.
There's that one scene where we walk in on him and he's like taking the barrel of a shotgun out of his mouth.
Yes.
Oh my
Yes, yes,
God.
yes.
That's so
What?
disturbing. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so this like kind of like reference to self-harm and like suicide, and
Right.
I like, even like I don't even know what to make of that, because again, it's like it's just kind of thrown in there haphazardly seemingly, which also frustrates me. Again, I
Absolutely.
have a habit of like forgetting things that I find that like don't, that my brain doesn't like to keep, so
Yes.
I just block it out. So I almost forgot that even happened in this movie,
Yeah.
because I find it really strange and distasteful.
And not in no relation to whatever they're trying to say that he is, you know.
Right, because I can't remember if that's like in the context of him feeling like guilty for what they've done, which feels like
Mm-hmm.
almost this like moment of awareness to reality, like, you
Right.
know, part of like hallucinations and delusions as they're presented is like you know, it's not totally like delusions aren't totally based in reality. Hallucinations are like seeing things or hearing things or like experiencing things that aren't really present in reality. So like, is
Right.
this in response to that? Is this in response to reality? Like, do they know that they've like killed the tenants of this house? Like, there's a lot of things that like are not really totally clear. And it kind of does feel like maybe they're coming in and out of consciousness. And maybe in addition to whatever unknown mental health diagnosis they have, that like they also have like other medical and health issues like dementia and
Yeah.
or Alzheimer's, unclear. And that's part of the complications of like doing a diagnosis too, is like, you know, we're as mental health professionals, we're taught to like rule out medical stuff first. And so like
Yes.
there may very well be some other like cognitive things going on like Alzheimer's or dementia that like are at play, and then like could also separately have some mental illness going on. So like there's just like a lot of information that's presented that like is really all over the place in my opinion, and makes it
Mhm.
harder. And then like with grandma, I even less of an idea.
Yeah.
Um
She's all over the place, like
yeah,
literally and figuratively.
Yeah,
Like
for
physically.
sure.
yeah. I mean like I think that I think that the dementia makes a lot more sense for grandma.
Mm.
Also thinking about there's another comment that grandpa, I'm going to call them that even though we know that they're not the real grandparents, but that's
Yes,
like
yes,
how they're
yes.
presented. Grandpa makes a comment in the climax as well about how grandma was, so they were both really sad and like jealous of the actual grandparents because they
Yes.
were talking about going to see their grandchildren for the first time and like how much fun they were going to have, and like that grandma was so sad and that she was like crying and he wanted to make her happy. So like that to me makes me feel like she has less awareness of like what's actually going on and is just kind of like
Mm.
along for the ride in a way. Like I feel like a lot more times, like with the exception of like her presentation changing at nighttime, she's just like very kind of silly and like go with the flow. Like the hide and seek scene is scary, but she's like giggly and like we're just having fun.
Right.
So it's like there, that too just like doesn't really make total sense to me of like what's going on, because that makes me think more that like maybe it is actually dementia, and like,
Mm.
you know, she's just like wherever we are, whatever, like is
Like
seemingly
she's
chill with
just
that.
right.
She would be way, I think she would be way more irritable, but we're not really seeing that until like the nighttime switch.
Right. When she's like telling her to
So
go clean the oven. I'm like, what are we doing
oh
here?
yeah, I forgot about that too, because I also
Yes.
really don't like that. I don't like references to like people getting in ovens
Yes.
for obvious reasons. So like I hate that they do that twice in this movie.
Yes.
Like I find that really distasteful.
So
But
wild.
yeah, so like that's really bizarre, because I'm like, is she like, I don't think that she's trying to kill her. I think she's just like again being weird and playful, but like not thinking. Like
Yeah.
that just seems like a really like, I don't know. I don't think that she's like fully cognizant of what she's doing all of the time. But I
Right.
don't that's not necessarily like, it could be because of mental illness, but like I really don't know.
Yes.
So
It's
that's my not very clear diagnosis
no, but
of
that makes
what's
sense when
going
the things
on.
are put to such extremes, especially for the context of this movie. You're just like, okay, well, if nothing is really rooted in a lot of reality, like then how can you make a necessary, like how can you make a diagnosis with what's
In
been
our
given
reality.
in our reality? Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. I get that. Fantastic. Okay, well, should we Rotten Tomatin this?
It's the Rotten Tomatoes game.
Let's rotten
do it.
tomatin.
Yes.
All right, what do you think this has on Rotten Tomatoes? Jamie, why don't you go first?
Oh my gosh. Oh my god. Do critics like this movie? I'm gonna say 69.
All right.
Nice.
Nikisha?
I'm gonna say 74.
68%.
Wow. Okay.
Work.
The
I was like, it has to be good enough where they're like, it's not a total flop,
right.
but it's not. This isn't like the best movie ever.
Right.
So, The Visit provides horror fans with a satisfying blend of thrills and laughs, and also signals a welcome return to form for writer-director M. Night Shyamalan. But the audience score is a little bit lower at 52.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't think people really love
Really
this
liked
movie.
it.
Some of the top critic reviews that are just like populating here are: here Shyamalan loosened up, shed some of his ego, and reminded us all what a gifted writer and director he truly is. And then someone else said, M. Night Shyamalan made another good movie, and I'm as surprised as you are.
Screaming. Yes.
All right. What do you think this has on Letterboxd? Again, this is out of 5. Nikisha, you go first.
I'm gonna say 2.8.
Jamie?
2.5.
It has a 3.1.
Okay.
What a movie. Oh, wait, no, wrong one. Here we go. Bold of M. Night Shyamalan to include a scene where a diaper full of shit is being shoved into someone's face to symbolize how much shit he's going to be shoveling into our faces for the next 94 minutes.
Oh. Damn. Okay.
jeez.
5 minutes in, the kid starts rapping. I added this to my films that make me happy I'm childless list. 9 minutes. 9 minutes
Excellent.
in, it happens again. I Google how to make sure you don't get pregnant. 89 minutes in, it raps once more. I decide sex is never worth the risk.
That is an excellent
Wow.
And then the most liked review is just called my grandparents and told them to fuck off forever.
comment.
Oh my
that's
god,
good.
this is so good.
Oh my gosh.
All right.
Yeah. It's so kooky,
man.
but I like it.
This was such a welcome surprise. Truly. I love talking about this movie so much. It's so wild. It's
It's
absolutely
so wild.
absurd.
Yes.
But I think everybody should watch this movie. Truly.
By accident.
And on purpose.
All right. What do we think this has? What are your 4 S's now that we're here? Let's do the 4 S's.
Skull, scare, shakes, and suggestions. The Talking Horrors 4 S's.
So for skulls, I gave this an 8, but I'm gonna put my answer to 6. I feel
Okay.
Readjusted.
readjust. I mean, because like I liked how much they were talking about mental health and human behavior, so I think that's why I put it out there, because
Sure.
the movie gave more than some of the other horror movies. But in our discussions, I always change my answers. It's totally fine. Scares, I'm gonna keep it as a 5 because I thought that there was some really good jump scares in there.
Okay.
And shakes, I'm gonna still keep my answer at an 8 because I will remember this movie, and I would, if someone wanted to watch this again, I would not hesitate to watch it again. So,
Totally.
yeah.
Jamie.
For skulls, oh man, I'm so torn because I scored it really low, mostly because like I had to dock so many points from the mom for this movie, the concept existing.
Sure.
And also it's a really bad portrayal of mental illness, but
Yeah.
I do think that there is a lot of like, as I mentioned, like grounded human behavior in this despite all of that, but I did end up giving it a
Right.
4.
Okay.
Great.
Scares.
For scares, I gave it a 4. Again, like I think that I don't think this movie is particularly scary. However, it has random jump scares that I think, and I'm going to call them random because that's kind of how it feels, that like
Yeah,
do
for sure.
get you, because that's what they're designed to do.
Mhm.
And then for shakes, I'm like torn between a 5 and a 6 because like I remember so much about this movie clearly, and also I will truly never ever ever forget that diaper scene.
I'm telling you, this is a 6 for you because we talk about the messes all the time.
Fair,
Great.
we do. The way that we reference this movie regularly is pretty wild. So give me the 6.
Fantastic. Yes.
My Skulls is a 5. Same reasons. I put it right in the middle because you can go one way with it or the other way with it. I give this a 5 for scares. I remember like really enjoying the jump scares and I don't know, that the scariness of the diaper is just so visceral, and them finding the dead grandparents is like deeply sad and scary.
Yes.
And then my shakes, I gave it a 7 because I heard you don't like messes.
Because I heard you don't like messes.
Yeah.
Oh. Now I'm gonna keep saying that. I love it.
And then I'll let you all go for your suggestions first. Nikisha.
I did our good girl Debbie Logan.
Yeah, Debbie L.
Yeah, same.
And then X just for like elderly killers.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Jamie.
I also had good old Debbie, Debbie L, and then I also went with Orphan as another like movie with a twist.
Yes.
Sure. If you want an actually interesting movie about Alzheimer's dementia, watch Relic.
Oh, that's another excellent one. Different direction that it goes in.
Oh yeah,
like,
totally different.
Another. I mean, I think Debbie Logan is another good like Alzheimer's.
Yeah,
like, those two I think are really solid.
Yeah.
Great.
Cool. Great.
Fantastic. Well, that wraps up our episode of The Visit.
Does it wrap it up
Village.
like a diaper?
Oh my god. So much poop. I can't. Also, another reason to not have kids. Cleaning up the poop. No, thank you. Sorry, y'all have fun with that.
We'll let you know how it goes.
Yeah,
we'll keep you posted. I can't deal with that. So you can follow us on all social medias, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok at Talk Horror Pod, POD. And producer Brian, where can they listen to us?
You can listen to us wherever you get podcasts. So of course you can find us on YouTube. Hi YouTube.
What's up?
You can also, of course, find us on Spotify as well as Apple Podcasts. Rate and review us there. 5 stars, please.
And thank you.
Thank you.
What's the quote? I heard you don't like messes.
I don't remember exactly what it is, but we think, because I combine it in my head with I heard you don't like messes, but I also hear Johnny Depp in the writing movie where he's like, I heard you wrote, did you steal my story?
What?
Damn, what's that movie called? You Stole My Story. It's John Turturro, and Johnny Depp.
No clue. I don't think I know this.
Yeah, it's oh my gosh, this is horrible podcasting.
No, look it up. We want to know now.
I'm looking for it right now. You Stole My Story. It came out when I was in high school. Secret Window. He plays a writer, and then somebody is coming to be like, you stole my story. And it's based on a Stephen King novel or a book or whatever it is. But I imagine that like Southern, like, I heard you don't like messes, and like, I heard you don't like messes, the grandpa, whatever. Anyway, that's what I hear in my head before a piece of.
I mean, I would have enjoyed it even more if it was a Southern accent. That would have been that would have added to the absurdity, and it would have been a great time. So clean up your poopy diapers, guys, and we'll talk to y'all next time.
Anyway,
bye.
All right, thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.